Okay, my recorder's running.
All right, well, we're ready when you are.
Okay, recording in three, two, one.
Welcome to the Dune Saga podcast. I'm David Moulton.
I am Scott Herzog.
And I'm Jim Arrowwood.
And on this episode, we're going to be discussing Dune House Carino, the sixth book in our series so far, and the third book in the Prelude to Dune trilogy. Concluding that and leading up to the original series. Wow, man, this book is the shortest book we've read so far.
Okay, my recorder's
We just lost you.
Uh-oh.
running.
All right, well, we're ready when you are.
Okay, recording in three, two, one.
Welcome to the Dune Saga podcast. I'm David Moulton.
I am Scott Herzog.
And I'm Jim
Oh,
Arrowwood.
it's me. Hang on.
And I'm-
That was my fault. So we can count. By the way, Roland's in the chat.
Nice. Hey, Roland.
All right, are we ready to try this again?
Okay,
Go ahead and count, Jim.
all right, recording in three, two, one.
Welcome to the Dune Saga podcast. I'm David Moulton.
I am Scott Herzog.
And I'm Jim Arrowwood.
And on this episode, we're going to be discussing Dune House Carino, the sixth book in our series so far, and the third book in the Prelude to Dune trilogy, leading up to Dune, the original work of Frank Herbert. So, this is the shortest book we've read so far. At like, what was it? Almost 500 pages?
I don't know,
or
I
something?
clocked in at about 28 hours in the audiobook. That's all.
Holy smokes, 20
But that is shorter. I was like, only 3 parts? Then again, Dune isn't really much longer.
Right.
And this, we're people have been kind of waiting for us to get to the original series. I think in part, even though I've thoroughly enjoyed the journey up to the original series.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've really been enjoying it so far. This book felt like it moved really, really fast. So just a brief overview. We focused heavily on the Carino house, which is the Emperor Shaddam's story, and his struggle to create a mall, artificial spice, and to kind of try and take over and gain more power in the political system by having more things under his control. So that was the basic premise. We also saw Leto recovering from the death of his son, along with planning to take
Victor?
to Victor. Yep, as well as taking back Ix with Romber. So kind of finding his place again and his strength, as well as Jessica dealing with getting pregnant and defying
Defiling.
well, defying her breeding program instructions. What else was it? The Harkonnens were just kind of in the background, kind of causing trouble here and there. They took a pretty big back seat, considering the last book, in my opinion. And one group that took a huge back seat by the time we got to the middle of this book was Jim's people, the Fremen. I felt once Liet kind of came into power, they kind of were just like, all right, well, that's, his story is kind of over. And they didn't really touch on it much anymore. So that was the basic premise of this book.
I tell you what, though, they certainly started the book with a bang with the Fremen.
That's true. That's
I'm
true.
like, whoa. I felt like in this book that Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson upped their ante on scenes where they describe gross death scenes. Because I don't know about you guys, but there were a crap load of them, in this book, and there were numerous times I was like, oh, no. Jim, how about you? What do you think?
I was going to say, considering who they offed, it didn't bother me so much. I kind of cheered a little bit. I guess that's the ghoul in me, but yeah. And the Fremen aspect, they didn't have a whole lot of space in the book, but what they did have was some major impact stuff.
Yeah.
Liet went to Shaddam to ask for help, told him what kind of atrocities the Harkonnens were doing, and Shaddam was so occupied with developing the Amal that he just kind of blew him off, and Liet said, fine, we'll just take matters in our own hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that nothing really struck that home as much for me as the point where he was like not even writing his reports anymore. He was just resending old reports from his dad.
I know.
And he's like, nobody's reading these, so nobody's going to care.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that brings us to really the main gist of the show here. Let's talk about some of our favorite plot points, things that really struck home to us. And along the way, I imagine we'll be talking characters and so on. So,
Yeah.
Jim, can I put you on the spot tonight to start us off maybe with your favorite plot point?
Okay. I really enjoyed the whole Atreides story. As usual, I have a lot of respect and admiration for the House Atreides, and I like the way they split up. Leto went to, oh, geez, what's the planet? Kaitan.
The call? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Leto went to Kaitan to address the Landsrat, and then Gurney and Romber went to Ix to retake that, and there was no communication between the two of them, so there had to be a lot of trust there that the timing was right so everything would work out. I really like that aspect.
And not only that, Toofer was off at Bacall with the
trying to
distraction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I think for me I really enjoyed Jessica's story in this one, and I think maybe not all of it, but man, take all that fighting and stuff aside. The most intense scene for me was when she was giving birth to Paul, and I knew, because I've read Dune, I knew he was going to survive, but at the same point, I was like, how are they going to react?
Well, yeah, I mean, they really build that scene out really, really well. Like, you don't know because you've hidden it from how they're going to react.
Yeah.
But you know that they can't kill Paul. At the same time, you just are worried that they're going to go ballistic.
Yeah.
And once it's done, they just are kind of there's this reluctant acceptance of it.
Yeah.
Is that the way you would describe it?
Yeah. Well, and also Anaril's going crazy, sitting next to her with a weapon, going crazy while she's giving birth, and everyone, not only Jessica, but like all the other sisters are like worried about what she's going to do when the baby, even if it was the right baby, like, how she's going to react. So.
Yeah, that was a pretty intense scene. I think for me, one of the scenes that I really enjoyed, it wasn't necessarily my favorite scene, but I just lost train of thought. Let me think here. Actually, yeah, one of my favorite scenes is when Shaddam is stranded at Arrakis at the very end of the book, right?
Uh-huh.
So Shaddam thinks he has his trump card. He doesn't know that Amal has been totally, gotten rid of and was a failure. He just doesn't know it. He thinks that he's won, and the guild abandons him there with the Harkonnens, and Harkonnens think that they are done for. They have it in. Which, ironically, I didn't think about that, but at the beginning of Dune, their relationship has kind of gotten seemingly a little bit closer, and I'm wondering maybe if this scene was meant to show kind of that connection.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about that necessarily when I was reading it. But, you just see Shaddam just totally humbled.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, that part I am cheering. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. It was kind of neat, though, how he came so close to sterilizing the planet and destroying any possibility of having faster than light travel and all the things that they get from spice.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, it was just, I don't know. It just wasn't. He wasn't listening to anyone. He was on an egotistical trip, and you could just see that throughout the entire novel.
And he had also been a little fooled.
Yes.
By the face dancer.
Yeah, but he was.
Yeah.
The face dancer just pushed him over the edge.
Shaddam seems like kind of an idiot anyway, unless he's got Fenrir.
I agree. He does. Yeah. He does see. Well, I think that to a point he wants to prove himself so much that he takes these risks. Like he doesn't think the process through the way he should.
Exactly.
He needs his right hand in command right there with him.
Right.
And he needs to be listening to him, and he doesn't.
I think an important thing that this book, for me, defined at the end was kind of the idea that even the bad guys aren't pure evil. You know what I mean? Maybe not the Harkonnens. It didn't really come across with them. But the Corrinos.
They're just pure evil.
Yeah. The Corrinos. I mean, like, because even I guess the scene, one of the very last scenes where Fenring and his wife are on Arrakis, and they're just kind of, you can tell they're very loving towards each other, and they're just kind of talking about their situation and the situation of politics and what kind of happened and how they got there. And you can tell that they were ambitious, and their ambition took them down a dark path. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're just soulless, like,
but they aren't
horrible.
They aren't really Corrinos.
No, but I mean,
and the storyline that defines that, David, is the Rafa storyline, where Shaddam discovers he has a half brother, and
I lost all respect. I lost all respect for Saddam at that point.
Yeah, and he sends out the Sardaukar and destroys an entire world to kill one person.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Roland said his favorite scene was when Shaddam was abandoned on Arrakis too.
Oh yeah.
So.
That was an intense scene. One thing that I thought was missing from that part of the book was the guild's response when they got to Ix. Because on Ix, they're like, "The guild's here. They answered our call."
There is a response though. Like they bring a ship back into the center cavity.
Oh
and then they say, "We affirm blah blah house." What's
Vernias?
Oh, okay. House Vernies is now the rightful rulers of Ix. They kind of affirm that, and they give their blessing on it.
That's true. I forgot
and so
about that.
It's brief. It's not like this huge hoopla, but it's certainly a moving scene.
Yeah.
And we didn't really talk about that. I mean, what do you think about the takeover of Ix by House Vernies again? That whole the way that scene plays out.
I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it was intense. I liked how you saw how the Amal changed the Sardaukar from being so loyal and a huge force to being reckoned with to being just feral, like, creatures, pretty much.
It was a slow poison is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Or when Adjika kind of went crazy. That was gross.
That scene. He's sitting there, stigmata's happening in his hand. He's doing that whole thing. It's absolutely intense.
It is.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I thought.
Can we do at least like 10 minutes?
I'll be down. Okay.
10 minutes? So a snack? Want to get dessert?
Yes, we will get dessert at that time. You got to give me more like a 50. If you want dessert, though, you got to wait 20 minutes.
Okay.
All right?
I don't want dessert. I want a snack.
No, we're gonna
10 minutes?
go. All right. All right.
What a neat. He's a neat kid.
He is a great kid. He's a great kid.
He is.
So.
I thought it was interesting how both of the Pilru brothers passed away. Because, Demur died saving them, and he spoke of a unseen evil.
Dude, go ahead, drop that into the book, and then not give us anything more.
Yeah,
Dude, that was, I felt, and they know there's something out there. We don't know what it is.
what it is. I don't think we hear about the unseen evil again until Chapter House.
I gotta wait that long, so they just drop it in there and just leave us hanging.
Yeah.
Curse you, Brian Herbert and Jay Anderson.
All those reviews were right.
No.
Yeah, they just dropped this like unseen. I'm pretty sure they don't. It's not spoken of again. But that was kind of like, what is it? Like,
Right. Well, that's what they do, and they're like, and he's like scrambling to get him out of there, and he does, and then dies.
yeah, and then Qatar, he died.
Getting a message to the guild.
Yeah, which I thought was a good end to his character, because the more that the battle became more and more evident, I was thinking, how would this guy ever fit back into society? Like, you know, the PTSD would just destroy him. He wouldn't be useful.
But he got to live to see Ix free again.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. What other good favorite parts did you have, Jim?
Oh gosh, man, there's so many. Wow, I'm blanking.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So Null Ship, right? Let's talk Null Ship, right? So the Bene Gesserit invite this crew from Bacall over to like hang out and say, hey, what do you think of the ship? And want to knowledge? No, let's wipe your mind. Not a big deal. They get back and the one guy resists and suddenly starts just recalling everything that happened.
Yeah.
You know, and because of his Mentat background, because he had some Mentat training, he's kind of failed or washed out Mentat. And as a result, they scoured the inventor's laboratory and discovered this little space that there's some notes they didn't know existed. And then they figure out a lot of this information. They begin to piece stuff together. And that storyline feels kind of dropped to me. Because once they are accused of having spice, they kind of blow the planet smithereens, and we don't hear much about what's happened to the notes. But I assume they're not gone.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is something that I actually, between our last recordings, I can't remember if somebody commented this on our post in the Dune Saga group on Facebook that Kevin J. Anderson runs, but somebody said, asked the question, how come you introduced no ships, and when they destroyed the prototype, how can they exist later? Like, what's the deal? And his response was, like many technologies that were created and then destroyed, someone reinvents it later in time. Like, the idea just comes back around.
Yeah.
And so
makes sense.
Yeah, he just said eventually it just kind of comes back around.
Yeah. By the way, go ahead.
You sound funny.
Me?
Yeah. You don't sound like you're all.
I don't sound like I'm all there.
Yeah. Kind of like sometimes
Hello? Check.
the beginnings of your sentences don't sound like they're kind of cut off.
All right. Let me just do a little bit of patchwork here. Can I mute myself while we're recording?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you sound really lispy.
Check.
You're still muted. I think it's because it's paused.
Check.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on microphone now, so.
Yeah.
Check. Hello.
That's
1,
good.
2, check.
Oh,
Is that better?
So much better.
All right. So have some fun editing that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. So are we good here? I'm not wigging out. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim, why don't you just count again?
In 3, 2, 1.
I don't know where we're at, but Roland did say when we talked about the void just a minute ago, he said, remember the Omnius probe set out from the Gidi Prime in the Legend of Dune series? Could that be connected to the unknown threat?
Oh.
Good.
Yeah, we don't know. I do. You know, since I know you read into Chapter House, right? They come back, and we don't really. Do we know anything about them then?
Um, so was the scattering mentioned at all in any of the other books? I forget.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I'll tell you that there's other possibilities of what it could be. Apparently, just a little history lesson at some point between, I think, Battle of Corinne and the Prelude, somewhere in those centuries of time, there was a period called the Scattering, where humanity just sent ships out into the.
Well, now is this where the Fremen come from originally, like back then, from some of the scattering of?
Yeah, I think that might be actually it might have taken place before the legends of Dune, but there was at some point in time where humanity just people just got on ships and just went into the distant, and where they went, who knows? So that it could be, or it could be,
Yeah. Wow.
So.
All right. So what other events happened that we should talk about here?
Man, what about Harkonnen stuff? I mean, the Baron tried to learn how to be have etiquette, which resulted in his etiquette teacher dying.
Right.
Well, that was the downside. I just absolutely thought that, of course, Raban stole the show there. He would not be trained. All he wants to do is kill things. And that, I'll tell that poor teacher, I can really sympathize. Been there, done that.
I think at his party, everyone reacted how I felt a teacher should have reacted to the idea of coming to teach the Baron something. And they were all like, I don't know if I want to be here. This is kind of dangerous. Like, will I leave this place? If someone came up to me and was like, would you like to teach etiquette to the Baron Harkonnen? I'd be like, no.
It's like, do you want to teach etiquette to Manson?
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no. No. Sorry, no.
Knowing what is at House Harkonnen, you've got that nutty Mentat Piter. You've got Raban. I would not want to sit anywhere without my back to a wall.
Yeah.
My favorite part was the cake.
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't there
only Baron Harkonnen would think that was
actually funny. What I was expecting to be in the cake was actually like some young boys or something like that naked. So I was actually pleasantly surprised, and there were like snakes slithering around here. That was actually better.
It reminds me.
All right, here I go with. I'm going to need another month of therapy.
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene in Temple of Dune where they slice open the snake and all the baby snakes come out? That's just what I imagined for this.
The other part we didn't mention that relates to Harkonnen or Harkonnen, as you guys are saying, is the attack on Caladan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when he hooks up with who's the
Martini.
Yeah, he hooks up with Martini, and they know that Leto has put all his eggs in a basket. He's on X, and he's on this he's on this decoy, but there's like no one really protecting, and who's it? It's not Gurney Howard. Is it Gurney Howard?
No, Toofer.
No, yeah, Toofer Howard. It comes back and realizes it.
Yeah.
That he is unguarded.
Yeah.
And then they play out that scene, and the irony that the guy that's leading the attack is like Duncan's old friend.
Yeah.
Is phenomenal. I love the way that scene played out.
You really get a payoff for Raban's previous missteps in this. Raban what is it, Wallach? Is that how you say it? Wallach 9's debacle with the no ship. Pre that, he would have attacked no matter what.
Right.
But having had that punishment of being banished to Lankavel and all that stuff, like as soon as he saw it, he was like, no, we're Harkonnens pull back.
Right.
Now, didn't Raban want to reassert his position as the heir apparent to the Baron because of what was going on with Fade, though? Do you think maybe that's why he decided to attack Caladan?
Well, I think that was kind of a little behind his motivation there to try and prove himself again.
Yeah. Even doesn't the Baron say kind of in the side like think at the one point that this showed surprising initiative for Raban, and he actually kind of approves it, even though he'll never publicly tell him that.
Yeah.
I think there was one part that kind of hints at that, and that makes sense then.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What else happened with the Harkonnens? Well, Piter's character.
Oh yeah, well that plays in with the whole kidnapping. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Piter sees Jessica. He's away from the Baron.
Right.
On Caetan, and he's like,
Well,
here's a chance to do something.
Well, he's realized at that point that Jessica is the heir of Harkonnen.
Yeah.
He's put two and two together and has the age right and the look right, and he's able to kind of process the information and say this is Harkonnen's daughter, and what a better chance to get back at Leto than to take this kid, kidnap him, and make Leto pay.
Yeah.
Well, and he's also got the hots for Jessica too.
Hardcore.
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's like something in his brain snaps all of a sudden, and he's just like, this woman, I gotta have her.
Yeah,
You know?
stalker dude.
Yeah, crazy stalker dude.
Dude, but that is probably the thing that saves Jessica's life in the long run.
Yeah.
Because he comes into that room, he slashes and guts these two nurses, right? They're there taking care of the baby. He looks at the baby and debates real briefly with having his way with Jessica, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of gross considering she's just given birth, right?
Yeah.
But decides not to like kill her or anything, and I think it's because of that whole hots for mama type thing that he doesn't do it.
Well, we know in the future he definitely expresses having the hots for her, but it's really amplified here. I mean, of course, it's a different Piter or whatever you want to call it, but
right.
But yeah.
Yeah. So he steals the baby, right, and just dashes throughout the castle.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have a plan.
You know, for a Mentat.
That's the thing that bothered me just a little bit. For a Mentat, going in to a situation and not having a plan or not thought out of a way out.
Right. And then stealing the baby and not thinking about how the baby was going to cry.
Yeah, where are you going to go? There's no place to go.
Well, not only stealing the baby, but he should know that. I mean, Feyd-Rautha's living in the Harkonnen house. He knows how much they cry, right?
Yeah.
So he shouldn't. This should not have been a surprise for him, but I don't know. He was so set at getting back at House Atreides, maybe.
Yeah.
Or hurting Leto, that just didn't think, I guess.
The cool thing is when Leto showed up and took command, and really took command.
Oh, dude.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he took command of the entire force. He was the, I guess, the highest ranking ruling house at that place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like how even the Redondo or whatever his name was like, he's right, he's in charge. That was just a cool moment.
Yeah. By the way, Roland doesn't think that he ever came across as a good Mentat.
Really?
Yeah, he doesn't like him as a Mentat.
Well, he was twisted, so it's not like he went to the Mentat school or anything.
And he loved drugs.
Yeah, he took a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of drugs.
Because he was on the verge of discovery.
Yeah, with having the visions of the future.
Yeah.
And everything. So, trying to think of what other major Anaril's killed by.
Right, and actually
Piter.
killed kind of honorably a little bit. I mean, one daughter's like watching out of the closet and actually hears the whole thing and knows kind of how honorably that she's died. And it's kind of she's kind of gotten whacked out and you're not real sure about her, you're not sure about how she's going to treat Jessica, but she dies kind of defending this kid.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I thought was really interesting was Mahayab doesn't reveal Piter was the criminal after she kills him.
That is interesting.
You know, she just mails him back, mails the body to the Baron.
Dude, that was great.
Yeah.
The Baron's like, "Where's Piter? I haven't heard from him." And then the package comes, and it's like,
Here's Piter.
"Here he is."
Yeah.
So.
Hey, call X, get me another one.
Yeah. Oh, man.
How did you feel about the development of the Ixian people in this one? Just you got to see more. We talked about the axolotl tanks, what they were. You saw.
Dude,
more
that
of
was kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
The axolotl tanks are just pure evil. Like
Yeah.
bloated bellies, the manufacturing.
Yeah.
Like when the Bene Gesserit assassin gets taken there, it's turned into
yeah.
that. I'm just kind of, that bothers me. That bothered me a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim, you were saying?
Yeah, that was Sister Christine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I'll tell you that.
I was kind of they developed her character enough. I was kind of rooting for her.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
Jim, you were saying. Sorry.
Well,
didn't mean-
don't worry about it. Her character development, I could see that coming. I knew that was going to happen. I hoped it wouldn't. I hoped that she would fight her way out of it, but there was just no way.
I thought it was interesting her brief moment of tenderness with Qatar and how she, you know, the Sisterhood's always pushing this like, "Are you human? Are you human?" But they push down their emotions in a very volcanistic kind of way, you know. But here in this moment, she was almost into Qatar, like kind of not seduced because they, you know, they didn't. I don't think they slept together, but
I think they
falling
did.
for him.
I think they did.
Do you think so? I thought.
Oh yeah, I thought there was
one
one part.
Kissed her and it was that was it.
Oh man, I don't know.
forget.
I don't know, Jim. We need your referee opinion here.
Yeah, I don't think they slept together.
Was there
I
a
think
bedroom
it was,
scene between them?
Well, they slept
Listeners, we
in
need.
the same bed, but there wasn't any. I thought that like it was one of those things where she
Like,
opened
we'll just keep each other warm.
where she opened herself
Flesh
up to
against
him,
flesh.
and he embraced.
What
her,
do you mean
but
opened herself?
emotionally?
Oh, okay.
Emotionally.
Just checking.
what are we looking for? Some boom chicka wah wah here, or what's it?
Yeah, I want the words "boom chicka wah wah" or I don't think anything happened.
You got that, Kevin Anderson? Next book, Boom Chicka Wah Wah needs to be in that book. By the way, Roland agrees that he does not think they slept together.
Okay.
I'm still taking the high road here, saying they did. I don't know if it's the high road or the low road or
I was
whatever.
going to say, how's that the high road?
It's probably not. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how about that storyline though with Fenring and the face dancer that tried to kill him and take over?
Yeah,
Dude, that was great, and that storyline actually begins back on X, and when there's a part when that face dancer comes before Shaddam and says, I want to say Saddam, but Shaddam, right? And I thought at that moment when he's impersonating, who's it again?
Fenring.
When he's impersonating Fenring in front of him, I was like, oh my gosh, Fenring's dead, because he knows he's in danger right in the scene before. Well, then they kind of work it out that he's going to the guild home world to kind of infiltrate the ships, which I thought was kind of cool, them doing that. Yeah. And then we have that whole fight scene you were alluding to.
Yeah. It was an intense fight scene.
Oh yeah.
Like I just thought, like they were pretty evenly matched, which really made it interesting.
Right.
And it showed just how formidable Fenring is too, because supposedly Zoal was not able to kill. That was not in his makeup.
That was a lie.
Yeah, that was a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, but not only was he trained to kill, but he was adaptive. He was able to learn on the fly, from what Fenring was doing, and he realized that. That made him all the more dangerous.
You really get a chance to see how Fenring was a failed Kwisatz Haderach. They mentioned it a couple times, but the more you think about it, it's like he's really smart, he's really intuitive, and he's got these this fighting skill and stuff. This is all Kwisatz Haderach kind of like stuff.
Oh yeah.
He just wasn't quite there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty intense. And you see him again, bring out his fighting skills, when after he blows up the factory when they're fighting an X, and he walks out and encounters um, Duncan's troops,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and Duncan and his crew just kind of take him down.
Right. But he worms his way out of it, you know?
Oh yeah,
Like, oh, I was a prisoner. This
Yeah.
and that.
they
But
don't quite.
he still didn't have the persuasive powers to get Shaddam to understand that Amal wasn't going to work, even after he proved it wasn't going to work.
Right. Right. Well, listen, while we're on the subject of Amal and Spice, we learned a lot more about the Spacing Guild in this.
We did.
We got to see their home planet. That was kind of interesting. Even more of it. Or was that in the last book that we learned about communing with the spirit or whatever it was?
Yeah, there was a scene with an oracle
Yeah, with the Oracle.
before Demur got onto the highliner.
What do you think of the Oracle? Any thoughts into that?
I think it might be something that would help them focus themselves and center themselves,
Yeah.
and
Nothing more.
put out distractions so they don't have distractions. Because what would be more dangerous than flying through space without actually seeing what's in front of you?
Right.
So they need to have incredible focus to do what they do.
But it talks to them a little bit, doesn't it? At one point.
I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember.
I'm just trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying to put thoughts in your head.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
I'll just cut to the chase. I can't remember if I'm right, but I feel like it's Norma. The Oracle is Norma.
I don't think they state that though in this book.
No, but like now that's because the character wasn't written at this point.
Oh, true.
These were written before
the
the
Jihad books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So
what about the Tlaxu? So we encountered him only through this corrupt guy that thinks the Tlaxu are kind of out. We really don't encounter him outside of this, really.
Yeah. It's an interesting society. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like super religious, but so close-minded to anything. Like their way is the only holy way. Everyone else is a Pawanda, or I think that's how you say it, Pawanda traitor or whatever they call it, dirty. So that's a interesting perspective. Genetics is the language of God, I think is their motto that they said.
That's not unlike the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
To some degree.
I agree.
What do you think of the reintroduction of Leto's mom?
I think it was ballsy for her to show up at the door.
You think?
Yeah. What do you think, Jim?
I think she asserted herself quite well. Young man, I am still your mother.
Yeah.
That was way out of left field, though, wasn't it?
It was. At one point, from a reader's perspective, you say, well, okay, this is just a mechanism to get Leto involved into saving his relatives, I guess, and helping his relatives out. So that was one side of it. It does fill Duncan in on what really happened when he was a kid. It links us back to the first book, which I think maybe in that way it serves kind of an importance there, because other than that, there's just loose connection to the first book, and we're kind of brought full circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, not only does it get him involved with his family, but it's the beginning of the softening him to that idea of strike and hand out forgiveness at the same time, kind of thing. Like at the end of the book, where he offers the aids to Bacall and while he's attacking kids.
Right.
So
right. Yeah. I just want to backstep. We did talk briefly about it, but Shaddam's half brother. that character was developed in such a way that I felt empathy for him.
Uh-huh.
And when he's arrested, not because he was initially going to attack, but he was just trying to get his attention. Like, he didn't go in there with a plan of attack at all. And then he has this huge speech that he's written that's never going to be heard. That just happens to be heard by the Ixian ambassador. What was his name? I can't remember his name, but the guy.
Pilru.
Yeah. Okay. So the Ixian ambassador, right? And records a speech so that everyone can hear it eventually, and it changes.
Yeah. And the big thing along with that is he's not just the Carino heir, as he's technically.
He's also the Ixian heir.
Yeah, the Vernays, or however you say it.
House Bernays.
Now wait a minute. Did Refa not try to kill Shaddam?
Not initially. When he hops, what my understanding is, he hops on stage with the jocklers. Yeah, right. So he's on stage and he comes up and he's there to get his attention and to plead his case initially. But when the Sardaukar move in to arrest him, he realizes he's going to be attacked, and he changes that beam to be more of a killing beam. And it ends up not cutting down Saddam, but one of his Sardaukar. That's my recollection on what happened here.
My interpretation was that he was going to shoot it up in the air for a show during his speech. Like he didn't intend to use it as a weapon, because they talk about how he's talking and he places the crystal in there and it starts powering up, but he's not being threatening. They just see that this weapon is powering up. And then they attack him, and he's like, "Wait, no!" And it's when they go after him that he kind of like fumbles and lowers it down like a weapon.
Yeah, but my point is, he didn't intentionally go after Shaddam to kill him at that point.
Yeah, I don't think that was his intention at all.
Yeah,
he just wanted.
My take was that he did want to kill Shaddam. He had enough of it. His teacher, his mentor, Othin, was killed. The planet was wiped out. His home was gone. He had nothing left.
Huh.
I agree with that. I just don't think it came out. I don't think that in that scene when he's arrested that was necessarily his intent to get back at Shaddam.
Is Roland still in the chat? What did he think?
He didn't comment on it yet, so we'll see if he throws a comment up there. But you might be right, Jim. But my recollection was it wasn't malicious in that way. It was kind of like, I just want him to hear my case. And I thought somewhere that he said that, maybe when he's talking to Pilru in prison later on. Although his death scene was very sad. The fact that they sewed his mouth shut.
Yeah, he couldn't give his speech.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the book, when the ambassador shows the tape to Shaddam, he's like, "Well, I'm glad I sealed his mouth."
Yeah. What a bastard killing brother. But go ahead.
Yeah, he not only sealed his mouth to keep him from giving his speech, but from revealing to the world that he was half brother to Shaddam.
Yeah. By the way, Roland agrees. He doesn't think he was trying to kill Shaddam at the point. That was his interpretation of that.
If Refa had told people that he was Shaddam's half brother, then Shaddam would really look bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was doomed.
He looks bad anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. He would have even if he would have done some other way of coming out about it, he was going to die. I don't think there's any question.
Well, image is everything, though, and we know what's going on with Shaddam, but the general population doesn't.
That's true. That's true.
So he has an image to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he would have gotten those tests done more publicly, maybe he would have had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So
yeah.
Are we ready to move on?
Yeah. Why don't we move? We didn't really talk about the Fremen a whole lot, and there's not a heck of a lot that happened with them, except they just kind of opened the book very brutally.
Yeah.
And
the big thing that happens with the Fremen, not to tread on your feet here, Jim, I know this is your people, but I'll summarize it, is that Liet kind of becomes the leader of all Fremen.
Dude, that was a good scene, too, when he's, like, contested and he ends up blood spilled. And
yeah, it's kind of like what and then his Naib stands up for him and is kind of like, no, nobody's going to fight here about this. I thought that was just kind of an interesting scene. And on tied up thing, and maybe we'll find out when we do, and it's been so long since I've read it, but he has a son, and I don't remember his son ever being mentioned in the other stuff.
Huh.
Because I mean,
Well, it's not technically his son.
well, it's true, but it's another
Step-
Liet,
Yeah.
and that's true.
Yeah, he has his daughter is Chani. So,
Yeah. But yeah, Liet Cheech,
Yeah.
you know,
yes.
around.
Yeah.
So, and that big sandworm display at the end.
Dude, that was cool.
Yeah,
That was cool.
very ominous kind of. It's been so long. I'm looking forward to rediscovering the life cycle of the worms and like what it is that's going on there.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
You know, I have a question for you, David. Maybe you could
Sure.
fill in a blank for me. I am not, and maybe I just feel ignorant about that. I don't understand CHOAM.
You know what? I had the same thought, Jim. I thought that the CHOAM directorship was very underdeveloped. Like you see it, you know they're functioning, you know they're an integral part of society, but they just like there's the guild is even more fleshed out than CHOAM is. You know they exist, they're somehow a part of the commerce, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they flesh them out a little bit better as we go on here. But basically, it's kind of like what was Venport's company called?
Oh yeah. The I don't know what it was called, but Venport Enterprises.
Yeah. Venki.
Venki.
Enterprises.
Okay.
Basically, Venki Enterprises, I've taken involves into CHOAM, because they were in such control of market, and then the Spacing Guild, because of Norma, had to become its own thing, because they had to have indoctrinated people into doing that. So CHOAM is kind of like, I don't know how to explain it other than like a Wall Street. You know what I mean? Like they control how much of this can go to here, and who can sell what, and who has a monopoly on this and that, and then how the House members have stakes in CHOAM, and that's kind of the way that I took. I mean, maybe why don't you? We have the Dune Encyclopedia right here.
We can look it up eventually.
Yeah, we should look it up.
Yeah.
So,
but that's CHOAM. Yeah, but again, this encyclopedia is totally not accurate anymore. But
So they're kind of like a regulatory commission, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but just it's like commerce. The guild controls transportation,
right?
But CHOAM controls who sells what and how much of it, and who gets what cut, and
because it seems to me that CHOAM and the guild are both more powerful, actually, than the emperor.
It comes across that way.
Yeah.
And
he can make laws and stuff, but if people want to get it in there,
if they decide they don't want him anymore, he could be overthrown.
Yeah, he could be impeached or something, whatever they're calling it. They don't give you know how long the entry in CHOAM is?
Oh my gosh.
It's like, I don't know, about 5 pages. I'm not going to read the whole thing now. The Combine Honnête Over Advancer Mercantile is what CHOAM stands for. It was created by political and military forces sustained by them and in turn maintained by those powers. It was brought about as a reaction to the formation of the Spacing Guild.
So it's like an opposite force of the Spacing Guild.
Yeah, so it's kind of like what the legislator, or I guess Senate and House, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of their version of it.
Huh.
But
interesting.
That's the first time I've opened that book. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good excuse.
But, all right, why don't we move into our quotes? Don't we have some quotes here?
Sure.
Who's leading us through these? Jim, is that your job?
Yes, I believe it is. Okay. Our favorite quotes, and let's start with David.
Sure. Okay. So I forgot to get who said these things, so unfortunately I don't have that information, but either way, they're still good quotes. I'll start off with, humans are different in private than in the presence of others. While the private persona merges into the social persona in varying degrees, the union is never complete. Something is always held back. And I think I spent a decent amount of time discussing introvert and extrovert personalities with people, and that just kind of really, I was like, yeah, okay,
That does.
yeah, for sure. Moving on, I said one of the ones was we could be dreaming all the time, but we do not perceive those dreams while we are awake, because consciousnness, like the sun obscuring stars during the day, is much too brilliant to allow the unconscious content so much attention. That was cool. Reminded me, when I read that, I thought of Vanilla Sky. You ever seen that movie?
Oh man, a while ago.
Yeah, the lucid dreaming and stuff. I think I quoted this one on Facebook. This is probably the one that stood out for me the most, just because of my own personal interest in the subject. Laws are dangerous to everyone, innocent and guilty alike, because they have no human understanding in and of themselves. They must be interpreted. That's danger zone right there, for sure. I think we've all heard stories about, laws made to help people where it turns around to hurt people. So,
yeah.
That's mine.
Okay, and Scott, what did you find?
All right, so I'll pick three here. I like the quote, "The natural destiny of power is fragmentation." And that was by Padishah Emperor Idris I, the Landsrod Archives. So I thought that was interesting because you do see kind of a fragmentation in the power as a result of Saddam's activities. So I thought that was good. I like this one, and this is Peter de Vries, who says, "It's no secret that we all have secrets. However, few of them are as veiled as we intend them to be." Or as veiled as we intend them to be. So, and this other one is by Aristotle of Old Earth. "It is not always the same to be a good man and a good citizen."
There you go.
So I thought those were some good quotes. And I do one more if Jim doesn't take it. So go ahead, Jim.
Okay. The three I found, they're kind of short, and again, like David, mine aren't annotated because I did them rather quickly. First one is, "The enemy to be feared is the one who wears the face of a friend."
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch out. You might have a knife behind your friend might have a knife behind her back. Okay.
That's why Scott and I sit looking at each other when we record.
Exactly. Because hey, what's really in your pocket?
Yeah.
And I'm way out here in Nebraska, so you can't touch me. Okay. My second one was, "There are some men who refuse to accept defeat under any circumstances. Will history judge them heroes or fools?"
That's a good. That's a good one.
Now, I've been trying to come up with examples of both. I haven't had a great deal of time to think about it, but it'd be kind of neat to find examples of those that wouldn't give up and became heroes or fools.
Well, I guess that question becomes House Vernes, Romber, he did not give up on Ix after all these years. Does time paint him as a hero or a fool? I mean,
yeah.
I'm
don't really know.
I'm thinking more in terms of reality.
Reality? What's that?
I don't understand.
Okay. And the last one I picked was, "Politics is the art of appearing candid and completely open while concealing it as much as possible."
Ooh.
Nice.
Yes.
I do have one other quote I'll share because you didn't. "Any training school for free citizens must begin by teaching distrust, not trust. It must teach questioning, not acceptance of stock answers." And that's by Kimar Pilrow.
So, okay, as a teacher in a public school system, tell me how this relates.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Hey, I'll tell you what. A kid can spot a phony from 100 miles away. All they have to do is ask one question, and then you act like you know the answer. And then
Oh yeah,
they discover you don't know the answer.
yeah. You
Okay,
know, and I was,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm.
No, you go ahead.
Fight.
We're both
You
public
go.
school teachers, and that's the other. I think the thing is, it depends what you're calling distrust to. Like for me as a teacher, I certainly don't want my students distrusting me as a teacher. That compromises the educational system to some degree. Do I want them to take everything that I give them or accept my way of viewing an issue or an idea? Hopefully not, and hopefully they do develop their own ideas and don't just take that what they've been taught hook, line, and sinker, that they seek to kind of explore and discover that beyond beyond what I believe or how I view things. And so I guess that would be my response to that.
But
Okay.
So
before you can test them, they are going to test you.
Ooh.
oh yes, true.
Mhm.
Yep.
Huh. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, as not a teacher, I say lie to them as much as you can. I'm just kidding.
Just remember, brutality breeds brutality, David. Love breeds love. By Lady Anna Roll Carino. Come on.
Wow. There's always a quote for something.
There is. So lying breeds lying, David.
It's true. That's true. Let's go ahead and rate this book. Let's start with Jim. Jim, let me know what you feel rating-wise on this guy.
I thought about this, and I got to give it a 4.8.
Okay. All right. Scott?
I'm with Jim on this. This book ranked high. And I think it ranked high because of all the books, there was quite a bit of action in comparison to the prior two.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of action, you have a lot of threads pulling together, and the thing is, it's a little bit unfair to rank these separately because they really function as one complete novel. I mean, the storyline is one complete, and so you rank them as one complete novel. I mean, we're dealing with the climactic point of the prelude to Dune, right?
Yeah.
And as far as the way I'm concerned, I think this ranked at least a 4.5 as a collective, and this one ranks probably 4.5 to 4.75. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
All right.
It's not the best book I read, but it's really good. It really pulls threads together, and I'm believing it, and I'm not finding myself at any point feeling that it was necessarily slow or I'm just wadding through to get to the next portion. I felt like it kept me engaged. What's going on with the characters I cared about. I'm cringing at some of the death scenes, like I said earlier, and so there's some writing that's moving me and affecting me, and I'm cheering for characters, and I'm wanting other characters dead, and I'm happy when people are humbled, and so that tells me that I'm engaged in this book, and that's a good thing.
What struck me as I read all three of the books, it was structured almost like a symphony, with a fast movement and a slow movement in the middle, and then a really big bang last movement, like something you would get from Mozart or Haydn.
Yeah. Like, I have to say, here's I'm going to give this book a 4 or 5 for me. We know that I gave Harkonnen 5 out of 5, and I love House Harkonnen.
You did.
With that book, it was like I just could not wait to pick it back up and read more, right? House Carino wasn't necessarily the same where I just couldn't wait to pick it up again, but when I was reading it, it was hard to put down. Mm-hmm. So it was like I didn't want to start reading unless I knew I had time to really get into it, because it was like every chapter ended, and I was like, I want to know. Like, what's the next chapter? Who's going to be in the next chapter? Oh, I want to know more about that story. The way it just kind of moved around in a really good a really good pace. And also knowing that it was shorter, I knew I wasn't going to be spending too much time not on important things.
Right.
I also really liked that the Fremen took a bit of a back seat because their
Sorry, Jim.
well, the characters they developed well, but they didn't spend a lot. They didn't overdevelop them, and they were dangerously getting close to the point where it was like too much development for these characters. So that's my thoughts on the book there.
Oh, very good.
Oh,
Very good.
They're gonna figure in big time coming up. So
What?
What do you mean? Spoiler! Spoiler!
Well, normally right now we say what's next. What do you want to see next?
I wanna read Dune.
Yeah, I want to read Dune. I think we've all read Dune, so we all know what's kind of coming here. But I think in this
Seen the movie.
Yeah, in this portion, maybe we can just quickly say what's in store for our schedule coming up, just so people can kind of gauge where we're going.
So, well, I think the first thing that we're going to be doing is reading Dune. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's right. So we talked about we're going to read Dune, and that's going to be our May book.
Yeah.
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 And the May book.
End of May book.
And the May book. And then my understanding is we were going to be going into the David Lynch movie.
Yep.
And
That'll be our June.
That'll be our June. And then
we'll read Paul of Dune.
Oh yeah, Paul of Dune.
Because we don't want to stay away from the books for too long.
Right.
So we'll read Paul of Dune.
And then we'll go to Dune the miniseries.
Yep, the sci-fi miniseries. So Paul of Dune will be July. Miniseries will be August.
Right.
And then we'll go back to the books for Dune Messiah, Children of Dune.
And then we'll do the miniseries.
And then we'll do the miniseries, yeah, because that includes those two books.
Right.
So that's kind of the schedule that we're going to go along there. So along those lines, and I didn't get to mention to you this before, but I have really nice old copies of Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune. So I think we can do a giveaway here. If we haven't had anybody call in yet. So if you don't have a copy of Dune and you're domestic in the U.S. and you'd like to put your name in for a drawing to win Dune on the next show, it's the, I think, 1985 edition, the one that came before the current one.
Okay.
So we'll give away Dune this time, and we'll do the other ones later. But if anybody's interested in winning that, call and leave your review on Dune and tell us how Dune affected you, your perception of science fiction or your life in any way, or
I
any
think
other
that's
type of
good.
ways. So and so you can call our number, or you can email us a recording if you prefer to do that rather than call in.
Right.
And we'll give you our number here in just a minute. So that's our contest, and we'll on our listener feedback show for Dune, the book, we will announce the winner.
Absolutely.
For this one.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
And relatives of the Dune Saga podcast are not eligible to win.
Must be 18 years age old, or
Yeah,
not valid in Alaska or Hawaii.
Yeah.
So I say domestic just because it's crazy to ship out.
Right.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
So, well, that pretty much brings us to the end. So as we wrap up here, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email us your thoughts for Dune coming up, which we're doing next, or any of the previous books that we've done, to Dune Saga Podcast at gmail.com, or you can call the voicemail at 188-508-4343. You can also find us at Facebook at facebook.com/Dune Saga Podcast, and of course on Twitter at Dune Saga Podcast. So we want to keep the conversation going, so please feel free to chime in there, and we will respond to pretty much anything you put up, probably at the time, and again on our listener feedback show, which comes here in about a week and a half. It'll be up.
Yep, absolutely.
Right after
Absolutely.
this. So, once again, for the Dune Saga Podcast, I'm David Moulton.
I'm Scott Herzog.
And I'm Jim Arrowwood.
And may Shai Hulud clear the path before you.
All right, stopping recording at that point.
Okay. Why is it?
So am I.
Okay, there it goes.
It just took a while.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, I just need to take about a 5-minute break here. Is that all right?
So do I. I've got to go make a cup of Earl Grey.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could use a drink
So we'll
too.
be back. So those of you in the chat room that are watching, we're going to be back on a 5-minute hiatus.
Yeah, maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Probably
10-minute
more.
hiatus. So
Can
just
you-
be aware. We'll be back.
Yeah. Can you type in there so that people can see?
I can. Well, and Roland's still there.
Yeah.
The only reason Roland said the only reason he hasn't called is that he doesn't like the sound of his voice in the podcast.
Well, Roland, maybe you can get one of those voice changers, like a crazy stalker. Hi, my name is Roland, and we'll put on the video feed. We'll put up a blacked out like silhouette, like one of those old cop shows. So, all right, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
We'll be back in 10. All right. And let me start a new project file.
Damn.
Yeah, well, it's probably picking up to your mic, so you might have to use that.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes.
Gosh.
Okay.
Free copies of those books.
Oh, look, Jim's just getting back too. So his tea's ready. Tea's ready. We're good to go.
Good.
Tea, Earl Grey, hot.
Results
Oh,
are
the poll. Good. We should start with that.
Test 1, 2. Okay.
Yep. Hey, can you hear us?
Yes,
Can you hear us?
I can now. Yes, I can.
Oh, that's good. I'll take my tea with 2 sugars and a little bit of cream.
Oh, you don't need that stuff in Earl Grey.
Is it hot?
It is.
There's no other way to drink it, right?
Oh, have you tried cold Earl Grey? Yeah.
It's bitter.
It's
Earl Grey is
bad.
actually my favorite tea.
Yes. It's the only kind I like.
All
right.
I don't know if somebody must have voted recently. Last time I looked, it was 50-50, but it's
Not 50-50.
45-55 now.
All right. Well, we can share those results. Are we ready to do the listener feedback show?
Yeah. How are we, do you want to assign feedbacks like you did before?
Well, why don't we just go down through and why don't who wants to go first?
Well, I have some news stuff I can talk about first.
You want news first? What do you want to drop in your poll?
I'll drop. Yeah. Why don't we do the poll first?
Okay.
And then I'll talk about the small news that
I
saw, and then we can talk about. I'll bring up Jim's friend pimping us out to the authors.
Okay.
And then.
And And then I can just I can start, and then maybe Jim can do
Yeah. Do we want to
the
decide
next one.
our question for this one? Because I know you just dropped in his new ones right in
Right.
there. I don't have his old ones anymore.
Well, we can just keep them current, and we can go back with the other ones.
Yeah. So, okay. The options are, would you rather use melange to see the future, past, or to live longer? Actually, I think we should just go with that one.
Okay.
Because the other one's another would you rather
Yep.
be a mentat or...
Let's do that one. That sounds good.
Yeah. So we'll do that at the very, very end.
Sounds good.
Okay. So when you're ready to record, we'll have Jim start counting.
I'm recording.
Whenever you're ready, Jim.
Yeah. I'm still learning how to run this thing.
Jim.
Okay. I'm running. So in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Dune Saga podcast. I'm David Moulton.
This is Scott Herzog.
And I remain Jim Arrowwood.
And welcome to our listener feedback show. As always, we encourage you to write us in at the Dune Saga podcast at gmail.com or call our voicemail.
At 1-888-508-4343.
Yep. And we love to hear your feedback and give comments on what you have to say and kind of learn more about our audience and all that great stuff. So before we get too far in, I want to say there was some news came out in an interview I was reading with Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert. They were talking about the Dune books and the future of the Dune books. Now, they said they haven't given much thought into, I mean, they have ideas, but what will be after the next book, which will wrap up the school book.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. But the big news is up until this point, everything had been saying online that the next book would be about the Suk doctors. And it was going to be the schools of Suk or whatever. As it turns out, they said officially it's about the navigators. So it'll be about the founding of the navigators school.
So of the guilds.
Of the guild, yeah. So we will have had the sisterhood, the mentats, and the guild. So who knows if they'll do something else after that, but that'll conclude that trilogy of the schools of Dune. So that's pretty interesting.
So no chom.
No, yeah, no. Well, maybe it'll be explained because even though that's not candid official encyclopedia like we said before, but it says it was a reaction to the guild.
Yeah, so maybe you might get that in the guild book itself.
Yeah, right.
So
along those lines, just some news from our fans. One of Jim's friends saw the authors and was pimping the podcast to them, and I think you even got a little bit of a gift there, Jim, didn't you?
I haven't received it yet. Eric Cohn out in Utah, he went to the Salt Lake City Comic-Con and saw the authors, and I in a way kind of helped him get to that con, and so he's apparently repaying the favor by getting the very first one we read. He got that autographed by Kevin J. Anderson and got Brian Herbert's autograph for me.
That's so cool.
That's rocking.
That's so cool. You're gonna be like that guy that has them in like an airtight case somewhere.
That's right.
That's exactly the way I do it, and I will share pictures of that stuff when they arrive.
Awesome. Very, very
It'll be in
cool.
like an electrostatic binding so that you can't actually touch the pages when you open it. It'll be it's his version of the Orange Catholic Bible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. In all the family.
I have vacuum sealed every autographed book that I've received. The one from Nick Eftimiadis. He sent me one for helping him promote his book, and the ones that I've gotten from Keith DeCandido. Yeah, I vacuum seal them and put them away.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yep, that is awesome.
So, without further ado, why don't we just break into the feedback? We got a lot of good stuff in this time.
Yes, we did. Now we were going to talk about the poll, right? First.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a poll we put out, and I think Roland in the chat room was kind of responsible for that. We do have a chat room for those of you that are just tuning in. It's at dunesagapodcast.com/live.
Yep.
And so when we record, and we'll try to give you a little bit more of a warning than we did maybe today, but.
Yeah. But you can chime in during our discussion, both during the discussion on the book directly and the listener feedback. So we hope to see you there. So last month's question was, what would you rather be, a guild navigator or a Bene Gesserit? And I'll tell you what, this was a tight race. Last time I looked at it, it was dead set 50-50. But as of right now,
someone's
looks like
vote pushed it over.
And they would rather be a Bene Gesserit. It's at 55-45.
So the question becomes, David, which would you rather be?
I think I would rather be a Bene Gesserit.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah?
I'm with you in that.
They have more freedom, I guess. It's hard to relate to the navigators because they evolve so much past humanity that they can't relate to us. So how could we really relate to what it'd be like to be them?
Yeah.
You know? How about you, Jim? What was your vote?
Same thing. I have to throw in with you guys. I like the idea of having that much control over yourself, that you can accomplish things, you can cure yourself, you can affect others negatively or positively. That's just fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. The guildsmen, they sacrifice so much for that higher level of thinking and that ability to see through time and space and stuff, but they lose everything else.
Imagine this, okay? You're a Bene Gesserit. You go to Pizza Hut. You get a large Super Supreme pizza, and then you tell your body not to absorb the calories. What could be better?
Dude, that would be absolutely awesome.
Living the life.
That's right.
I haven't even thought of that.
That's right.
I haven't even thought of that. So, yeah. Well, we'll have another question for you here at the end of the show. For
absolutely. So. Let's jump into our first piece of feedback, and I'll start. This came in from Darren Kerrigan. It actually came in our Facebook page, and this is what he had to say. It was in response to our listener feedback show number 3, and he says this. Just finished listening to the listener feedback number 3. Great discussion as usual. Regarding your end of show question, I definitely prefer to be Bene Gesserit. There's another vote in. Navigators are just a bit too removed from their humanity for my liking, and are given the high dependence on spice and aware of how fragile the supply is, given its history in Dune. I'd prefer to manage my own body chemistry, thank you. Just finished reading Mentats, and currently listening to the audiobook of Dune, ready for when you get to that point. After reading the prequels to Dune, it's surprising how much more human and emotional Gaius Helen Mohayam is when she talks to Jessica around the great scene with the Gom Jabba. Kevin and Brian build them up, Bene Gesserit, to be totally devoid of emotions, but that's not how it comes across in the early Dune books. Ruthless? Yes, but much more like an old hag or witch. Which do you think? What do you think? Take note when you move on to the Herbert books. I'd love to hear your opinions. Also, if you notice any other character or personality misalignments, not in a negative way, but purely in the way different authors portray them. So part of this question we really can't answer yet.
Yeah.
But I know, Jim, you started reading Dune, right?
I did.
And have you noticed already some of the differences in the characters?
I certainly have. Where he says the old hag or witch, I did not see the Bene Gesserit that way in the prequel books. However, it starts right at the very beginning with describing Mohayam as an old hag.
Yeah, and they definitely, almost every single Bene Gesserit character that plays any sort of role, they comment about how either at one point she was a seductress, or even though she's a bit old, she could still seduce any man she wanted to. Like, they seem to mention that with anyone in the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson books.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's true. Yeah. So
Of course,
go ahead.
not all Bene Gesserit are old hags either. I mean, there's Jessica, Anna Rule, Romber's wife Tessia. You know, they're not all hags. They
Right.
may wind up that way, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, and I think we kind of agreed with the Navigator stuff he said too.
You know, in talking about picking up Mentats, I almost I was at the library. I'm like, ooh, I read the back cover. I was like, I gotta read this. Don't have time. Don't have time.
Wait, you didn't read Sisterhood yet. You'd be
No, I know.
You would be so lost if you
I
picked
would
that.
not, because it's focused on another character.
Well, it's supposed to be the second book in a trilogy. That's like picking up House Harkonnen and being like, well, it's focused on the Harkonnens. So
Right.
totally fine.
Okay. I stand corrected. All right. Anything else we need to talk about here?
No,
I
thanks
think
for
that's
your
good. Yep. But all right, Jim. Why don't you read the next one? This one by Nathaniel Rich.
yes. Nathaniel says, I'm stopping my listen to your show before the Corrin episode so I can re-experience the books and really enjoy the discussions. With that in mind, bear with me, because this may have already been covered. You fellows know there is a Dune encyclopedia, right? It contains a timeline that stretches back to the present and covers as far forward as Leto II. It's not the most comprehensive, as it was published before Chapter House, but it is a lot of fun. Just be aware that it's a whole big box of spoilers. Thanks for the show. You've got me excited about Dune again, and I'm spreading the gospel to my friends. When the time comes, I'd appreciate some discussion about the Orange Catholic Bible, as that always seemed like a strange concept.
Yay! So he's a fan of the encyclopedia, and Nathaniel, we do, as if you listen to the main show, you will have heard us talk about the fact that we do have a copy of it here.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not. I thought it was going to be insanely expensive, and there are some ones that are in pristine condition that are, but I got mine for I think $25.
Yeah. Was there like a hardcover version that was crazy or something?
Oh, I don't know, but this isn't terrible. There's a little bit of wear along the edges, so if
looks
you're
pretty good.
it's in good condition for it. So yeah, aware of it, and I have not read it. Again, I cracked it open in the last, I guess, our last show just for a little bit to look up Chom. That was about it. And thank you for, by the way, for spreading your the gospel of the Dune Saga podcast to your friends. We do appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Orange Catholic Bible, we want to talk about this now a little bit?
Sure. I wish somebody had put something together. I know we've mentioned that a couple times. I wish somebody had put something together. It's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
For sure.
And do we have enough about it that we could like actually assemble some sort of?
As I was talking, I was like, I wonder if somebody's ever gone through and pulled out every quote from the Orange Catholic and all the books and just been like, well, here
it is.
This is what it would look like if it was done.
That would be cool if they did. But yes, I guess obviously Catholic is a reference to a unified faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where does the orange come from? Is that from melange? Spice?
Maybe. I mean,
does anyone know out there, listeners? Help?
I kind of got the impression that it came from, well, not the orange, but that the Orange Catholic Bible stemmed from the call to Serena somehow.
Yeah, well, I would believe that.
But just how, I don't know. Maybe we'll see that in the school books.
Maybe. And is it tied to any certain group? Is it tied to the Bene Gesserits?
No, I don't think it is.
It's kind of broader than that.
It's its own thing. But just kind of stick. Go ahead.
In Dune, Yui gives Paul a copy of the Orange Catholic Bible.
It's like almost one of the original versions, the way it's presented.
Yes.
Yeah,
we don't want to spoil too many things here, though. But
I think we should take just a quick step back to the Dune Encyclopedia. We talked about it before, but it has been considered non-canon.
Yeah, we do need to say that by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah.
So, and I think even Frank Herbert kind of viewed it as being
fun,
an amusing romp. But
Yeah. So,
yeah.
anything else on the Orange Catholic Bible there, Jim?
No, I'm as curious as Nathaniel is.
And maybe one of our listeners can tune us into something.
There's a nice section on it in the Dune Encyclopedia, but
I want to read that.
but yeah.
So, anything? I see you typing away. People talking in the.
I was, and then actually, so Roland just put into the chat room regarding the Orange Catholic Bible. It was created by Frank Herbert as a combination of the symbolic color of Northern Irish Protestantism with Catholicism.
Oh.
So that's what Wikipedia says.
Interesting. Well, thank you, Roland, for
so that's
checking that out.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
but the Orange Catholic Bible, I don't see any of them. But all right.
Well, I can. I'll read the next one.
All right, go ahead.
So Naomi chimes in here. She says, "Dear David, Scott, and Jim, I first read the Prelude to Dune about 10 years ago. My son was 9 at the time. As you can imagine, Duncan Idaho's story profoundly affected me. After a recent second read of House Atreides, the Duncan Idaho storyline remains a major standout. The tragedy and brutality young Duncan suffered were horrendous. His victories made me want to cheer. His courage and loyalty were amazing considering all that he'd been through. Duncan's early life experiences is a fitting explanation of why so many great generations of Atreides loved him and didn't want to live without him."
And that's from Naomi.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Ichihara. So for pronouncing your name wrong, I'm totally sorry about that.
Yeah.
So what do you think about what she's writing here?
I think it's cool. I mean, I agree. I love Duncan's story. I love that, what we're seeing him. I think it really gives you a sense of he's so much younger than everyone else, right? And I know that in Dune, he and Paul have a special relationship.
Oh yeah.
And I think that kind of kind of comes through as he's this link between the older generation and the newer generation, So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Duncan's always one of the characters I love to go back to.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it in the middle book when he's training to be a sword master, and then in this book when he's kind of assumed that role, and he's kind of supporting Leto at the beginning, and then taking a very active role in the invasion later on. And you just see his skill, his training, and he's kind of framed out the book, gone from this, extremely hurt and broken, and trying to get away from the Harkonnens to fighting for the Atreides.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on that, Jim?
Yeah, I also really enjoy the Duncan Idaho storyline. However, it gets kind of sad and tragic, actually, as time goes on.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll learn more next conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to get too specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next one. This next one actually is from Roland. So Roland in the chat room, he's going to hear his top 10 moments from Dune. He has a couple here, but here's his top 10 moments from Prelude to Dune series. So he's looking at all 3 books together and saying this. And he does have another one in here. I don't know if we should read this one first. Why don't we actually reverse this, and let me read. I'm going to read his email about the book itself, about the most recent book about House Carino.
Sure.
And then we can go back to his top 10 moments. Does that make sense?
Sounds good to me.
So why don't I do this one, then Jim, you can do the top 10 moments.
Okay.
And maybe when we do the top 10, we can talk of each one, just kind of respond to it a little bit.
Great.
But anyways, here is his email about House Carino. Hi, David, Scott, and Jim. This book was awesome. I especially enjoyed seeing Leto become a benevolent ruler juxtaposed to Saddam becoming increasingly cruel. I also enjoyed the imagery of Romber as a part cyborg. I give this book 5 out of 5. So Jim, he's with you. I give the trilogy 4 out of 5. He said his favorite moments, the tainted spice leading to a jump into uncharted territory and Gurney getting enough clean spice just in time to jump away from an unknown threat. Definitely hints towards something in the future. The guild putting Shaddam in his place by abandoning him on Arrakis. 3. Recapturing of Ix, the Atreides' attack on Tlaxu and Sardaukar and the demise of Ajidica. And Thufir Hawat's hologram ruse to scare off Reban and Moritani's attack of Caladan. Random comment. I'm really curious how Tlaxu came to be. Did they used to be humans from Earth? My answer to the question posed at the end of the last listener feedback podcast would be Guild Navigator. I would choose to be a navigator because of the high order mathematics involved.
That makes sense. He's a math teacher. So.
Oh, well, the devil. Hey, then it makes sense, then, that he would choose that. So anything that Roland's saying here that you kind of are thinking about or commenting on?
Well, I'll chime in about the Tlaxu, about them. They were human, and they were just kind of like how the Guild's men became more and more mutated. You see them in Legends of Dune. They're more human-like. They just talk about how they're shorter and a little bit paler, but in this tomb in Prelude of Dune, they're like silverish, and they have don't they have like pointed teeth? I think even?
And no women.
Yeah, there's no women to be seen.
I would have trouble in that society.
Yeah. It's an interesting. They're very different. Interesting. I know that later on we'll learn more and more about this very recluse society and why they are like they are. So.
Yeah. Anything that he said jump out to you, Jim?
Oh yes, Thufir Hawat's hologram ruse. Now that was brilliant. I enjoyed that part. It was a surprise to me. And it was one of those moments where you want to jump up and say yes. That was my favorite one.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good. I was not expecting it. I was fully expecting them to come in and actually take over Caladan for a little bit, and then Leto comes back and has to deal with it. But they didn't go there. They kind of opened it up, and Thufir Hawat kind of earned his keep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was worried about letting Leto down. He does definitely not let Leto down.
That's true.
Well, I wondered where did all these ships come from?
Yeah.
I liked how even though they say this is a really old way to display your ships, it was still enough to scare them. They're like, why are the ships in the ocean? No one does that anymore.
Right.
But they were still like, well, let's not question the fact that all these things are here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Roland asked kind of when we talked about the Tlaxu a little bit, are there any real aliens in the Dune universe? There's no aliens that we know of. They're all human.
Everyone's human or some derivative of human.
Yeah, except for the machines, but even them are derivative of humans.
Yeah, I think the closest thing we get to alien is maybe like the brief mention of like livestock and pets and stuff that are not.
They're not really.
Like they'll say like the lizards
Yeah.
on Ix or
Right.
things that aren't something that we have on Earth, but they're not necessarily intelligent life.
Yeah.
The only sentient life forms in our Dune universe are humans.
Yeah, so that means everything has originated from Earth except for the creatures on these planets.
Yeah.
As far as that's kind of.
Yeah. As far as that's
So
yeah.
as far as we know, but that's so I do agree with his comment about the rating of the books. I thought that there was I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, I'm on point with that.
Yeah.
Especially the trilogy part.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, Jim, why don't you take his top 10 moments from Prelude to Dune series, and we'll start at number 10 and count down.
Okay, drum roll, please. Okay. Number 10, Pardo Kynes saving the Fremen children from Harkonnen troops. And that would be H.A. What is H.A.?
House Atreides.
Yeah, House of
Oh.
Atreides.
Okay. So that.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. Go ahead.
We all commented about that when we were talking about that, about the turn of events there that happened.
Oh yes. Yes.
There's a
Where
big
did
turning,
what scene was that? It's been so long ago.
Yeah.
has a big turning point in the series. Number 9,
Mhm.
Sater's sacrifice to call the Spacing Guild in House Harkonnen.
Mm.
Yeah. Actually, House Carino is
Carino.
what he's talking about. The one where he dies.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
most. Yeah. Yeah. So that was certainly obviously noble and moving.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
A fitting into his character in the main show. I think I
yeah,
talked
we
about
do.
that.
We did talk about that.
Mhm. And he was a hero all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which was nice.
I will try to get this right from now on. You're seeing my 3 a.m. wake-up call this morning coming through. All
We'll
right.
keep you straight.
I appreciate it. Pardo Kynes becoming a prophet among the Fremen when Juliet killed himself rather than Kynes. And that would be House Atreides.
Yeah, I don't know if I put this as a top 10 moment, but it certainly was a defining moment
Yeah.
in Guild.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm thinking along with it. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
The wife.
It is. I can't even answer it.
There we go.
Hey. Come on. Hello. He's great. He's watching TV. Nope, he's fine. Okay, it's fine. That's fine. I'm still in the middle of recording. You're on the show. No. Yeah.
So deep.
No, that's fine. Oh. All right. That's all right. Okay, very good. Nope, that's fine. All right, I love you. All right, bye. All right. That's what happens when you don't silence your
Yeah.
cell phone. All right, which one did we stop at?
It was.
Well, number 7 is up.
Yeah, okay, let's go number 7.
All right. Number 7, Pardo Kynes finally thinking of his wife as the cave collapses. A sad but poignant moment from House Harkonnen.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very sad. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Number
And-
6. Number 6, Duncan Idaho and he wrestlers battle with the Grumman on Ginas in House Harkonnen.
Yeah. That was a great battle.
Yeah.
I loved seeing it. Now, I don't know which one exactly he's referring to. Are we talking about the one on the boat? Or are we talking about the battle that ensues afterwards, after they've just been given their sword mastership? And I think that's probably the one that he's
Yeah.
talking about. But I think the battle on the boat's also pretty awesome.
For me, I think I enjoyed the test more.
Dude, the
final
test of him going through that cave and then,
Yeah, he had to get out of the shield. He was like,
slowly penetrating it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But-
All right, we're up to number 5. Thufir Howlett's hologram ruse to save the defenseless Caladan in House Carino.
Mhm.
Yep. We talked about that one with the other show.
Covered that. Number 4, Gurney Halleck's escape from Gidi Prime, House Harkonnen.
I'm going to disagree with this one.
Man, I don't think this should make the list. It was important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, him getting off and getting freed from the whole slavers and the pleasure brothel. Now, it was nice, but it was kind of anticlimactic for me.
For me, I love the Gurney Halleck character a lot. I love his place in Dune, and I like him in House Carino a lot. In House Harkonnen, especially the beginning, man, I just felt, I mentioned this in the conversation for House Harkonnen, but I just felt like it was like, oh, everything that was bad had to happen to this character to shape him, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I was just kind of like, okay, like
What more can we do? Let's dump on this character.
Let's put some more things on.
Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert. What do you have against Gurney Howard?
Yeah.
You know.
Come on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, by the way, Roland was saying that he was the last battle between Duncan and that they were talking about.
now, see,
All right.
The Gurney Halleck thing to me is kind of a heroic story. How this guy dealt with so much hardship and came through it, and still maintained his humanity.
Yeah.
Well, and I agree with that. I just don't think that the escape from you was a momentous thing. I think his story overall, arching, I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe he meant the whole story. I don't know
maybe
if he meant
did.
the whole.
Okay.
Maybe did. All right, number 3.
Roland's number 3, the recapturing of Ix from House Carino.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
I like that one.
Yep.
Oh yeah, very vivid story, well described and fun to read. Okay, number 2, Demur's sacrifice to save the Highlander after the tainted spice incident in House Carino.
Yeah, I agree. That should be on the list somewhere. I thought that was great.
That was good.
If only for just that, they're coming. Kind of like.
Oh yeah, like
you know,
what more cryptic of a line? Let's drop that bomb in there.
Yeah.
They are coming.
Okay, and the number 1 moment is Duncan Idaho's escape from Glosso Raban in House Atreides.
I would say that escape and how he escapes and how he ends up with the Atreides is certainly a fascinating story, and I would say somewhat essential. My favorite moment, I don't know if it's my favorite moment, my number 1 moment, but it was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep,
So,
I liked reading about him messing with Raban.
Yeah, with cutting his tracker out.
Yes.
Crushing that guy with that boulder. That was pretty cool.
All right, you scroll down below his. There's some more feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, do you want to talk about the top 10 science fiction books from the blogosphere?
Sure. Are we gonna read? You want to read all of them, or?
No, let me just. I'll do this, and then you can read the
next one.
Dallas Smokers email.
Okay.
So apparently, the blogosphere, they did some VPS.net did a poll and said, what are the top 10 science fiction books according to the blogosphere? That means what books are blogged about the most. Number 1, no surprise, William Henderson, you would love this. Philip K. Dick came in at number 1, but just underneath, Mr. Frank Herbert himself.
Yeah.
So that was kind of important. Was that number 2? Well, maybe it's not. Maybe actually these are in reverse.
How are we?
These are reversed. So this is actually number 8. Frank Herbert came in. Number 9. Frank Herbert came in at.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it came in. And then Philip K. Dick came in twice, actually.
Yeah, it must be for certain books. No?
Yeah, maybe. They don't say that. But anyways, I thought it was neat, the top 10 list.
Yeah.
So
I think I had seen official Dune Facebook posting about how they were happy to be on the list.
Oh, very good.
So, very cool.
And it's
All
funny
right.
though that it's only WordPress.
Yeah,
blogs.
so they're just it was whatever sort of algorithm you're using to kind of scrape these blogs, and apparently just does WordPress blogs.
Huh.
Yeah, I've done 4 or 5 books by Philip K. Dick on my blog.
So this is what. So here's kind of the breakdown. The top 10 were Isaac Asimov is number 1, George Orwell at number 2, Douglas Adams at number 3, Orson Scott Card at number 4, Bradbury at 5, William Gibson at 6, Philip K. Dick at 7, and then 8, Robert Heinlein, and then Frank Herbert, and then Philip K. Dick again.
How could he be on there twice?
I think they have that. That must be a mistake.
Because it says the same amount.
Yeah, same number, so they just had the wrong book there. But
Yeah.
Frank Herbert's number 9, so
Yeah.
that's kind of where he came at.
Who cares about number 10? After Dune.
Yeah, after Dune, nothing else matters.
Okay.
It's true. It's
Once
true.
you get to Dune, it's just
That's right.
get the rest.
All right, let's hear from Dallas Smoker.
Okay, so Dallas Smoker writes in. He says, "Hey guys, I'm finally caught up, so I'll be commenting on both Harkonnen and Carino. I've been really enjoying these books. I find the political sabotage and treachery extremely interesting, and it has been great to see how all the pieces sink into place as the story develops. First, I'll begin with my comments on Harkonnen. I found this book very interesting. It definitely had some gruesome and horrific moments, such as the raping of Halleck's sister and the poisoning of the Fremen water. Yeah, both of those scenes. Whew.
Yeah.
My stomach churned at the imagery of the villagers scooping their own eyes out.
Thanks, Dallas.
Yeah. But it also had finesse when it came to the layering of political language and maneuvering. There are so many interesting things to talk about with this book that I can't even pinpoint where to begin or summarize my thoughts in a brief manner, which really speaks to the depth that the book provides. With that in mind, I will simply say that this book contains the perfect combination of necessary literary components that create an intriguing and enthralling story. I was so invested in the story that when I finished it, I immediately acquired House Carino and finished it in a couple days. It helped that it was shorter.
True.
These books also made me realize how much I had forgotten about the original Dune story. So as I start Dune, I feel like I'm reading it for the first time, which has been quite enjoyable, especially with so much background knowledge to inform my reading. Now, concerning House Carino, it was very interesting to see how these three houses fit into the grand scheme of these novels. House Harkonnen is fueled by revenge, House Carino is fueled by power, and House Atreides is fueled by honor. I never looked at it like that. I'm just going to take a break here. That's it's kind of interesting.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it. Of course, it is more complicated than that when you break it down, but you definitely get a distinct motivator for each of these houses. However, you also see how these motivators hinder the houses in certain situations. The Harkonnens' lust for revenge turns them into brutish monsters, thus making them not well liked in the Lancerad. The Carino hunger for power leads Shaddam down a path that almost annihilates spice production, and the Atreides honors keeps Leto from seeing some major flaws in the individuals he puts his trust in, namely Kylea. This book really helps to establish the personas that make up these houses and allows for the reader to see how connected this universe is by handshaking and backstabbing. Overall, I have enjoyed the Prelude to Dune books more than the Legends of Dune books, simply because the Prelude books have a better balance of action and in-depth political intrigue. The stories are more interwoven and therefore create rich and enthralling characters that the reader can imagine, that the reader can intimately know. I can't wait to keep the story going. Here are my ratings for the first 6 books. Butlerian Jihad, 4. Machine Crusade, 3.5. Battle of Corinne, 3. House Atreides, 4. House Harkonnen, 4.5. And House Carino, 4. Keep up the good work, fellas.
Thank you for that nice write-up, Dallas, and I'm glad that you're caught up with us. What do you guys think about what he's writing here?
Man, I thought it was... Go ahead. You go, Jim.
I thought it was, yes, that paragraph, House Harkonnen is fueled by revenge, Carino by power, and Atreides by honor. That it pretty well sums it up.
It does.
Yeah.
And the flaws that he, that those things bring with them. I thought that was great. Yeah, I agree. I too like the Prelude books better than the Legends.
It was a shift going. Remember when we were talking about it? It was a shift going from the Legends into this because they tend to be much more political in nature. Yeah. And I wasn't sure I was going to like that.
Yeah.
And I'm into it, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. The balance of politicalness and there's still a little bit of action, but really the treachery, political overtones are just pretty solid.
I think even Dallas commented in the last feedback show that he didn't like the switch. He was wary about it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but somebody had mentioned that before. It'd be interesting if we ever talked to the authors to ask them what it was like to go back and write so differently than these.
My only thing that Dallas, I'm going to be honest, you had to bring up all the things that drove me, all the things that made me cringe again about House Harkonnen. So thank you for giving me nightmares tonight and making me not sleep and wake up.
You're going to need therapy.
I will definitely need therapy after reading these books. And his ratings, I see where they're at, and I think that obviously the Prelude books kind of scored a little bit higher overall. So, any other comments about what he's saying?
Good.
We're good. All right. We did get someone from Twitter, Pat Nucky Thompson, said, after listening to your show, Listener Feedback 3, I had to dig out my copy of the Dune Encyclopedia, and he showed a picture of it.
Yeah, a couple pictures.
Yeah, so we had a couple
Thanks for
pictures of
posting
people
those.
saying, "Yeah, we have it. It exists."
Yeah.
Now, Pat, we want to see your Orange Catholic Bible. That's right.
Yeah, dig that out, man.
Dig that one out, man, and I props and respect, you know.
And for those not watching the live feed, Scott just gave a gang sign. It was awesome.
And there's a reason people don't come to the live feed to watch. No. All right. Why don't we go into our bad reviews?
Okay, yeah, bad reviews.
We want to give the question after this, right?
Yeah, we'll do the question at the very end. So you have to listen to these bad reviews. Tough.
Yeah, so deal with it.
Yeah, of course. Just like I've been stating, I tried to find ones that weren't just I don't like Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert and cry in a river, because we've heard that a million times. So there's a little bit in here, but mostly I wanted to catch things that had some extra stuff. So let's go right in. There are contradictions and retcons around in this book. Originally, Elrond had ruled for 34 years, not 138 as this trilogy claimed. Ix was ruled by a group, not House Vernias. If Frank Herbert had decided to write a precursor to Dune, he could easily have done so in one book, not three. The drama between Leto, Kylea, their son, not Paul, Gasp, and Romber was unnecessary filler. And the Baron is portrayed in this book as a rabid, woman-hating man, where in Dune he had been hinted at being gay. And this attitude towards women wasn't as I can't pronounce that word.
Misogynistic.
Misogynistic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Many original characters clutter up the trilogy, and the canon characters are rather different, for a rather unsatisfying read. This trilogy really is nothing more than fan fiction, freely abound with retcons and mistakes that would make anyone else ashamed. But apparently Brian and Kevin simply don't care about anything but the money these books generate. And a true fan should never consider reading anything that the pair has more than poorly. How did that sound? Anything by that pair as more than poorly written fan fiction. 1 star. So, yeah, I know that Scott and I talked a little bit before recording about how different some of the characters are. I don't think we can comment too much on that right yet, but when we're done Dune, I'm sure there will be comments about the differences.
And I guess the question is, do the differences really change the overall story? Or are they subtle differences that the characters that we need to kind of reshape them in our mind to kind of fit Frank Herbert's mold, but the story of Dune and the world building in Dune, does that really continue and remain intact despite these differences in character?
Yeah.
Is it enough that you kind of are suddenly launched out of? It's kind of like somehow coming from the world of, Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, are we launched out of their world into this new world and are having trouble to make a connection? Is it that bad? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be.
I don't think it is. Anything to add, Jim?
Yes, absolutely. This trilogy is nothing more than fan fiction, freely abound with retcons and mistakes that would make anyone else ashamed. But apparently Brian and Kevin simply don't care about anything but the money. I'm sorry. Nobody writes a 1,000-page book and not care.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, yeah, they're trying to make a living as an author, but these are like their children. Of course, they care about them.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things.
I mean, Beethoven wrote music to earn a living. Does that make Beethoven's music less valuable?
Mm-hmm.
Rubbish.
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's one of the things where there were certain parts of the story that they couldn't cram into lesser books. So maybe some of it was fleshed out just for fleshing out, but there were things that would have been hindered by less. That's my thought for that. So, Moving on, Carrie writes, I'm glad this is the last of the prequels. They are good in their own right, but I am definitely ready to move on to the real stuff. The series dragged on for longer than it probably needed to. There was some decent action in this book, but most of it came hurriedly at the end. Much more interesting, I think, are the books of the Butlerian Jihad.
Whoa, you don't hear that too often.
Yeah, I know. The House series is more like an appetizer for what is to come. If you are looking for something to pass the time, then this book with the whole series is it. But if you are looking for a great book, then skip on over to Dune. You won't be missing much in the way of background information, and it is a much deeper book with more importance placed on themes and driving forces behind the characters. Of course, as a huge Dune fan, I am happy to read anything remotely related. 4 stars.
Okay, so even though she absolutely trashes it, she still says, it's Dune.
Yeah.
4 stars for me.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was a little bit interesting. You know, she didn't. The thing about the Butlerian Jihad books better, man. I mean, we already said we don't agree with that, but
I enjoyed when we read them. I enjoyed those books.
Oh, yeah.
They were good stories.
They're
but
not
it's different.
bad.
They're different.
Yeah, I think that the appetizer feeling is something that I like about it, especially rereading them in order as we are now. It would annoy me more if I would have read Dune and then gone back immediately to read these. I would have been like, I already read Dune. Like, I don't want to.
I know this. I know this already. Yeah, I know when it comes out.
Right.
But Roland said, even if it was fan fiction, why does that make it bad?
That's true. That's true.
Here's the other side. We are getting more of the Dune universe.
Yeah.
If Frank Herbert's not going to write anymore, and he's not, clue you in just for a little bit there.
What?
Yeah. All right, let's get out a Ouija board and start channeling Frank Herbert, right? We aren't going to get any more Frank Herbert. So if we want to play in his world, his universe, then complain all you want about the fact that this is not Frank Herbert's writing. It's not going to be, and it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But they're building it off his notes. They're referencing his note. They're trying to tie it in and make sure all I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and they're trying to make it the best they can. And I don't see how you can argue with that, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. A lot went into these books, especially when you feel that the Butlerian Jihad books were written after. I mean, there's so many plannings in this that it's almost hard to imagine that it was done that way.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Alex says, I don't know if it was just other obligations getting in their way, or if this final part of the Prelude of Dune trilogy really was the most difficult to get into. But in the end, despite coming somewhat full circle, I wasn't as best pleased with it as I had hoped. The number of simultaneous plot threads began to resemble a tangled mess of strings at the end as events were rushed to their conclusion. To draw a simile from the books, instead of being able to look forward with utter clarity to observe and admire how everything came together, it felt like the clamor from other memory, i.e. future canon plot, newly introduced intrigues, obscured the actual message. 2 stars. So
I think his actual message is kind of obscured.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his is obscure.
Jim, thoughts?
No, I'll tell you what. I guess no, not really.
Okay. All right.
See, yeah, not worth commenting on is what you're saying. I get it, Jim.
Well, wait a minute. You know, maybe I have thought about how difficult it would be to take something that exists and then fill in the blanks before. And that's I think these guys have done a great job.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So the last one I have here is unattributed. So House Carino is where Herbert and Anderson's narrative goes off the rails and stretches the limits of the plot's credibility. Another invasion of Ix? Peter de Vries running around Cayetan with baby Paul? WTF? There are some truly weird developments in this conclusion of the trilogy, and I can't say that it was well executed. Where was the Earl of Ix throughout the rest of Herbert's original series, if he played such a huge role in this one? That's just one of several questions that will leave you scratching your head at the end of this one. 2 stars. So again, I mean, we'll probably have more to comment on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, you know, okay, running around, if you know anything about Dune, it is a bit. I'm not defending his comment, but it is a bit far-fetched to picture Paul really being in danger. So when he's kidnapped there at the end, it's kind of meaningless. It does, like, you know that Paul's his central character in Dune. Nothing's going to happen to him. You don't necessarily know that Piter is going to take one in the keister, and then he's going to be back as a clone. But it does seem a bit far-fetched there. And you're like, well, this ends up good.
Right.
So, and this is part of the curse of being a prelude book, period. Because you can't write a prelude book in a way that surprises the reader totally, because you already know what's going to happen in the future. On the same token, it's like, okay, Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars can't become anything other than Darth Vader, right?
Right.
And so, I guess part of it is, so that's the curse of all prelude books, period. But for me, when I read a prelude book, I'm not reading it to necessarily have that shocking reveal surprise. I'm reading it to experience a journey to the book that I've loved and the main story I've loved. That's just my thought on it.
Jim?
I have to agree with Scott. Absolutely. I'm not reading these books. Well, let's see. I'll put it this way. I'm reading these books for enjoyment, for entertainment, and for fun, and I'm getting it there. Okay. I like the blanks being filled in, and I like the extra stuff that is put in there.
Yeah.
One thing with this guy's review, though, that I have to agree with, that there are several questions that do leave you scratching your head. Now, I'm really foggy because it's been so long since I've read the original Dune and the series, and I keep asking myself, what happens to Vernius later?
Yeah. I don't think it ever gets explained.
Yeah. So, and also I remember from watching the movie that the people of Ix weren't as respected as they were before.
Right. I remember that too. Like the Tlaxu are hated, but the Ixian people are suspected of treason for making too smart of machines. They're not really the greatest.
So
I guess we'll see.
There are questions that need to be answered. So
yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I believe that's about it, right?
Yeah, that wraps it up. So,
we have a question.
What's that?
We do have a question.
We do have a question. And our question for this month is, would you rather use melange to see the future / past, or use melange to live longer?
Or would you just like to use melange, period?
Period. Yeah. So that's a good question. I mean, would you just use it for its basic properties, or would you want prescience? So that's the question. I'll put up a poll the same day that this episode goes up, and you can go to our Facebook page and click the link and vote there.
Absolutely.
Or leave a comment with your answer.
Absolutely.
As always, we love your feedback, as you can tell if you're listening to this. So, Scott, why don't you give us how people can get in touch with us?
So, anyways, we are the Dune Saga Podcast. You can visit our website at dunesagapodcast.com, where you'll find links to our live show and information about us, so you can stalk us on Twitter, Facebook, and everything else. We are at facebook.com/Dune Saga Podcast. Also on Twitter, Dune Saga at the Dune Saga Podcast. Our phone number, should you want to torture us with your awesome voice and voicemail, is 1-888-508-4343. We would love to hear from you. But hey, if you really aren't fond of hearing your voice, we love to receive emails. You can email us at the Dune Saga Podcast at gmail.com, and we will share it on the air like we shared all these wonderful feedback and all this wonderful email that we got for this past show.
Right. And along those lines, we are currently running a contest to win a nice hardcover 1983 version of Dune, original printing from that time period. So, if you would like to be eligible and you live in the United States, we're looking for people to send in voicemails or recordings of their messages. They can send it to our email as a WAV or MP3, or they can call the 188 number. If you do that, then we'll do a random drawing from everyone who submitted, and you will win a copy of Dune.
That's right.
So,
That's
and
awesome.
we'll announce the winner on our listener feedback show for Dune.
Yeah,
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, one real quick question. I can't answer this, and Roland's asking in the chat room, I thought, before we sign out officially here.
Okay.
He asked, you read Polo Dune, right?
I have not read Paul.
You have not, so we
No.
can't answer his question.
No.
But his question is, doesn't Paul of Dune have parts from before the original Dune? And I don't know that.
The official standing on it is it takes place. It involves the story of Paul between Dune and Dune Messiah.
So it doesn't jump, like there's no flashbacks.
There might be.
Yeah, so hey, Roland, we don't know. We'll find out.
I have not read Paul of Dune, Winds of Dune, or Sisterhood of Dune.
All right,
so.
we will find out.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, let's exit out of here.
Yeah. So for the Dune Saga podcast, I'm David Moulton.
I am Scott Herzog.
And I am Jim Arrowwood.
And may Shia I don't even, what's the catchphrase?
May Shia Lud clear the path before you.
And may Shia Lud clear the path before you.
I don't even know the catchphrase.
Yep. Dum-dum-dum.
Excellent.
All right. Clock's in at about 55 minutes. That's another
episode.
Yeah, very
that's
good. Nice. Well, hey, Roland, thank you so much for joining us in the chat room. Prop show. I'm glad you.
Pleasure, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll see you the 10th, I think it is. That's when we're playing games. So I'll see you then.
You playing board games?
We're gonna play Battlestar Galactica, the board game.
He actually mentioned that in the chat. He didn't mention that.
Did he really?
He said that the I should. Let me go back to the chat. Oh, I just lost the chat. Come on. He said there was a reason. And let's see. The fact that humans originated from Earth and only Earth is a Battlestar Galactica concept.
Yeah.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
But by the time it got posted, we were like way past it.
Way past, yeah.
So we did jump back a little bit, but I didn't feel like it was too distracting. So Jim, you ready to go for Tuesday?
Yes. I'm looking forward to it. It just tears me up that I have to watch Ender's Game again.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mentioned it to Diane, and Chrissy come running out of her room and says, "We're going to watch Ender's Game again?" And I said, "Yeah, you better."
Nice. By the way, I roped David into joining us as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really liked it, and it'll be. I mean, you guys have read the book, I'm assuming.
Oh, it's been a long time.
I've never read the book.
Yeah,
so I'll have that perspective.
I read the book just before the movie came out, and I actually reviewed it on my blog. If you want to look that up.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, you did get the file for the Keith interview.
I did, and I threw it out on the Chronic Rift site to see if anyone else wanted to join us. I didn't get any takers yet. I did ask Kevin, and Kevin did not see Ender's Game, so he can't really comment on it. So I think it's going to be it'll be us and Em and Miles, but I think that'll be some good conversation.
Okay, and then Keith DeCandido's my interview with him.
It came through. I did not listen to it yet, but I downloaded it and I have it.
Okay.
So
yeah, I
have an interview. I was just finishing up with Pat Murphy, who wrote The Falling Woman. So right. We'll be airing that early next week, and then the Jim interview will go up sometime. It'll either be before or after our listener feedback episode for next week.
Okay, because Keith's book is due out on the 6th.
Oh yeah, so we'll have it out. It'll be out before then.
Excellent.
Gentlemen, do we want to decide when we're meeting again?
Yeah, we probably should. Let me. I guess I shouldn't stop the broad. If I stop the broadcast, it won't end. We'll still be in chat, won't we?
Probably.
All right.